Well, good morning from Cottage Farmstead. I'm Rebecca. My husband Nathan is inside working on painting the ceiling, and I'm outside today with my dad. He's back here at the homestead helping us again today, and we're working on our well filtration system. The other night it was a little too dark to film, but we put in part of the pressure tank and the sediment filter.
Ooh, I'm getting high now, Rebecca. Ooh, you smell it?
And we also set up an extra outlet from our well cap so that we can recirculate if we need to run bleach through it again. So we're here working again on the other filters, getting them set up.
Next is get the union on there and get it pointed down in that direction, and then we'll start hooking it up. Okay, all these gizmos. This is the pressure switch that controls the pump. When the pressure drops down to the low setting, it turns the pump on, pumps it up, and the tank here is the pressure tank. It fills up with water until it builds the pressure for the high setting and turns the pump off. That way it maintains the pressure you need going to the house. This is the pressure gauge. This is the drain valve so that we can drain the tank if we ever need to. And this is a pressure relief valve so that the pressure does not get too high. It will vent off the pressure. And that's all these gizmos.
You might be wondering why we're going through all this trouble for well water that we got from so deep, probably about 500 feet down. You think it should be clean. But since we are not on city water anymore, we don't have access to any water treatment. So essentially we're installing our own water treatment plant right here in our well house. And so the first thing right there in the corner, it comes up from the well and it goes into our sediment filter. And that sediment filter gets out the larger particles that are in the water, especially since we went through granite, there's going to be little bits of rock in there. And then it goes into this big blue tank behind me, and that's our pressure tank. And our pressure tank fills up with water, and then it has a switch in there that we set it to the setting, the pressure that we want the water to be going into our houses. It tells the well to turn on, fill up, and then it'll turn it off until we need more water, and it'll turn the well back on. Out of there, we saw the gizmo down there with all the different things on it. It comes out of there and it goes into our first filter, which is our water conditioner. So we don't have super hard water, but there are minerals in the water. So that'll be taking out some of the minerals in it. Then the next one is a carbon filter, and that'll take out bacteria, pesticides, other things that, contaminants that are in the water, groundwater. And then the last little filter here is another filter. It does finer particles in there. And then eventually we will be going through a UV filter, and that'll get any last remaining bits of bacteria or anything will be going in through the UV filter, getting zapped, and then that's the water that'll be going into our house that we'll be drinking, showering, and cooking with. So this right here is part of the pressure relief valve. It'll connect to the pressure relief valve that's right there over there on the coming out of the pressure tank, and then this tube will go outside in the corner there, going along the pipe out to the well. So if we ever see water just spewing out from underneath our well house, we know that we have a problem with our pressure tank and it doesn't leak all in our well house here. So from here we'll be working on flushing our filters out, and then we'll be getting the UV filter attached.
When they build these things, all of the filter components, the different beds of different materials, there's particles and stuff that get in the flow path, and we're going to just flush out any of the stuff that needs to be flushed out so it doesn't clog up the pipes.
There it is.
Okay.
So on the gauge here you can see the pressure that the water just comes out of the well naturally at. So it's going through the pressure tank, but we're not having the pressure tank fill up and regulate the pressure right now. But you can see it's coming out at about, almost just shy of 20 psi. And while we are testing out the system a little bit, while we're flushing out the conditioner, we have discovered that we have a leak over by the sediment filter, so it looks like we need to tighten it up a little bit there. So we think the problem with the leak is the other night we had kind of got the sediment filter all in place, and we just stuck the connection on there, and we didn't put Teflon tape. So we're gonna unscrew it and double check that it doesn't have Teflon on it. Have Teflon? We forget it? We forget the Teflon there?
I haven't got that
Checked yet? Oh, okay. On either side of the sediment filter, there's a union. And the reason why we have it set up that way is so if something goes wrong with our sediment filter and we need to fix it, we can disconnect from either side and remove the sediment filter and work on it rather than having to try and like work in this cramped corner and work on it. We can able to take that part out. If we need to replace that entire setup, we can replace that setup right there at the union.
No tape on these threads.
We forgot.
You want to put it on in the same direction you're going to be threading the fitting together, so that as you tighten the fitting into the other, this fitting into the other fitting, you're going in a direction that tightens the tape on instead of loosens it or takes it off. And you need to do 2 or 3 good layers on there so that it seals well.
So one thing to pay attention to when you're installing this is they very helpfully put in. On the other side it'll say out. You have to make sure that you have everything that's going in the in direction and everything's going out in the out direction. Otherwise you will mess up your system. You also see that they have arrows sometimes, or they have it, rather than being like a sticker, they'll have it right there on the connections themselves. So there's out and in right there. So with the carbon filter here, it has a slightly different flushing sequence that we have to go through. So once we hook up the hose, we're going to let it run for 15 minutes, and it's probably going to be kind of a blackish cloudy color, getting a lot of that carbon filter particles out. Kind of like if you're using like a Brita water filter, you see those little black particles. And then after that, we will be doing 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for the water, and just doing a surge, trying to push any of those little remaining particles out. And we'll be doing that for about 15 minutes or until we don't see any more particles coming out into the bucket.
Come here.
See some of those. Whoa, whoa. That's black. You don't even need a bucket to see that. It's black. And as we're flushing out the carbon filter, you can see we no longer have any leaks over here. So it was just the Teflon tape that we forgot to put in there that was the source of the leak. And as you can see, something as simple as that little piece of tape is key into not having a leak in your water system. Well, we thought we were going along good, but we discovered we have a second area that's leaking. We came in and we noticed that water was leaking underneath of our pressure tank. So we are draining it right now with the hose outside, and we're going to get ready to flip it up and take a look at the underside to see what might be going on.
Make sure it's lined up good and straight before you start. Pull the nut back so we can see.
So we discovered the problem with the pressure tank was at the base of the pressure tank is a piece of threaded plastic that we're screwing into, and it got stripped out just the very first time that we stuck it in there. And that's just part of the problem with using plastic in plumbing. It doesn't last as long as metal or brass would. So we're trying to make a fix using some other plumbing parts that we got at Lowe's, but some of them were fitting, so we're having to kind of fix the fix. So we're kind of trying to put that back together and see if that doesn't leak. If not, we'll have to regroup and try again. Well, the fix for the fix didn't work, so we're gonna have to try again another day, go back to the hardware store and see if we can find a better piece. The Lowe's that we went to was pretty disorganized, so we're gonna try a different one in a different town to see if we can find the correct part, and hopefully that'll fix it. But that is all for today, as it is getting into the heat of the day. It is getting quite toasty here in the well house, so we'll wrap it up for today. Can you explain what you've been working on?
Rebecca, you caught me when I'm dirty again.
Means you've been working.
Well, I am wiring up the pressure switch so that we have automatic pressure control for the pump. well and filtration system. What are you doing?
Waiting on water.
Well, everybody just come out here and watch me now. Tell you what, let me stand over there and y'all work and see if it gets done any faster.
We'll wait a long time. We'll be going YouTube it. So my dad came yesterday while Nathan and I were at our respective jobs, and he was able to fix the leak that was underneath the pressure tank, and then he finished connecting everything else with all the fittings and extra pipe. So we have it where we left off on Thursday was we were getting it hooked up to the conditioner and the filter. And so then we have the fine particle filter, and then what comes out of there, it goes over to a UV light filter, which is where like the last little bit of bacteria or anything that may have remained is in. And then going down here, you'll see that it goes off in 3 different directions from that pipe. So this pipe right here goes to a spigot that's outside. This one will go to our house, and then this one will eventually go to my parents' house when they build their home. So we'll have water going 3 different directions.
All right. Okay. We're ready for the first. Here we go. Oh, look at that.
100 proof or 110?
This is 100%. Nit, nit, nit. Beers and chotums up. Oh, ooh, yep.
Kimberly gets to taste it now. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, a fair amount goes into getting a water treatment system set up. So when you're paying your city water bill, you kind of know what you're paying for now. You're paying for the conditioning and the filtration and getting the bacteria out and the sediment out. So there's a lot of different steps that go into having your own water off the grid. We're super thankful to be able to draw groundwater from our area here and not have to trench water all the way from the road to connect to city water. We just tasted the water that went to the filter, and it was, I guess delicious. It doesn't actually taste like anything. Growing up on the city water over in Greenville County, like there's a distinct taste to it, and especially along the coast, there's a distinct taste to the water. So this was just pure water, probably the purest I've had. So it was really nice to know that our water is nice and clean. And the next step for us is trenching it to the house and getting it connected to a water heater and to all the pipes in our house. Well, that's all for this week, so we'll catch you next time.